Hello students, well this will be my last video message to you since we're moving into the home stretch here, Module 9. I have graded your discussions for Module 8, and over the next couple of days I'll be grading your final versions of the essays that you submitted. So keep an eye out for that, but let's recap the discussions this time. Group 1, you had Harry S. Truman's inaugural address from 1949, and I think many of you were indeed surprised by the tone of this address, because really from start to finish, Truman very much emphasizes the United States as a Christian nation. And in fact, he relates even some of our most basic freedoms to Christianity. Caleb, you and others pointed out that he says the basis for American equality is that we're all made in the image and likeness of God. I think some of you were quite surprised. We don't usually hear this kind of rhetoric nowadays. What was it about America at the time Harry S. Truman was speaking that made this so compelling? Well, first of all, both Ashlyn and Stacy mentioned the effects of World War II, and that after having been through this terrible war, and especially after fighting someone like Hitler, this religious message was very reassuring to the American people. It gave them a framework of meaning for all that they had been through. But also, I guess I would add that it was also a very useful weapon against the communist world, because after all, communism was officially an atheistic system. They rejected the existence of God officially, according to their founders, Karl Marx, Lenin. And so, by mentioning God so much in his inaugural, this was a way for Truman to really score some debating points against the Soviets. And in the overall goal of U.S. foreign policy, which was to contain communism and to win other nations over to our side to become our allies, this was a very useful tactic for us to say that we were the defenders of religion in the world against this atheistic communist regime. So there's a lot going on in this address. Group 2, you had a document by the National Security Council, NSC 68, which also set forth some foreign policy objectives for the United States. And in this document, you commented on the very stark rhetoric in which the United States is portrayed as the leader of the free world, and the Soviet Union is over and over again referred to as the slave state. And the idea is that we stand for creativity, individual initiative, and freedom, whereas the Soviets simply stand for domination over individuals and over the entire world. And it was quite interesting to me how you really seem to agree with this viewpoint, even in this post-Cold War era. But I think that what's really interesting about this document is that for the first time ever, you have an official policy statement saying the U.S. is going to be willing to go on the offensive. You know, typically we only fought when we were attacked, right? Like at Pearl Harbor. But this document clearly says we may need to go on the offensive against the Soviet Union. And that was really something new in American foreign policy. I asked you what you thought of this. Holt, you made an interesting comment. You said that you had some doubts about it, in spite of your anti-communism. You had some doubts about it because it really made us the policemen for the world. And that is quite true. That during the Cold War, we were constantly getting involved in situations all over the world in a way that represents a total decisive break with the earlier American tradition of isolationism. So we're really in a new era here after World War II, as far as America being very active in the world. Group 3, you had an article on a very different topic. It was written by a woman named Edith Stern, and it's about the situation of the American housewife during the baby boom. And Stern really attacks the whole institution of the U.S. nuclear family and housework in no uncertain terms. Not only does she say that housewives are treated worse than workers, because after all, they don't have vacations or old age pensions or workers' comp, but they're even treated worse than slaves. Very strong language here. And asked you what you thought of that in an attempt to stir the pot a little bit. I asked, you all seem to be quite sympathetic to Stern's viewpoint, and you saw her as a brave crusader for women's liberation. And I asked if families, and specifically even women, have really benefited from women's liberation. Are families or even women really better off? For instance, don't we have many women nowadays who are stuck doing a job and then coming home and having to do the housework as well? But you corrected me on this point, and I was glad to hear the ladies in the group say that their husbands are very good at helping out with the housework, so that you're not exhausted all the time. And anyway, you all pointed out that even if we wanted to, we couldn't really go back to the old days when there was one breadwinner and one person who stayed at home. That the modern economy just doesn't allow that. You almost have to have two incomes. So interesting discussions, everybody. Now, I have some very important announcements here. First of all, moving into Module 9, I just want to apologize. The video called The Summer of Love that you're going to have some discussion questions on, it's a little annoying. It will not go full screen. Even if you click the full screen button, it doesn't work. And I tried to get this fixed through the IT department, but they weren't able to help. So I'm afraid we're just going to have to put up with that. If you really hate it, you could try looking up this video from YouTube. Just be sure you get the same one. It's a documentary that consists of 3 different NBC News reports from 1967. Second, your course evaluations are still open through Wednesday, and thank you to those who have already filed your course evaluation. If you haven't, I really, really would be very grateful if you would. It's a great help to me and also to future students, so that I can keep doing what's working but change the things that aren't working. Third, very important, your final exam is only going to be open July 28th, that's a Friday, through July 31st, July 28th, which is a Thursday, through July 31st, which is Sunday. That means that if you are going to take it at the Darton Testing Center, you must take it on Thursday, July 28th. I wanted to leave it open Monday, August 1st, but I can't. And the reason is I have to have the grades in by 8 a.m. on August the 2nd. And if I leave it open through August the 1st, there's no way I can grade those in time. So it's going to have to be July 28th, Thursday, if you're taking it at the testing center. You must take it by then, okay? But you still have quite a bit of time between now and then, so I don't think that's going to be a terrible hardship for you. But I do apologize. I have no choice, as you can see. Chairs for Module 9 are Jennifer for Group 1, Cassandra for Group 2, and Darielle for Group 3. And don't forget the extra credit assignment posted in Module 9 if you're looking to bring up your grade. All right, well, that's it. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions.